Good morning, Warzone Kids. Welcome to the channel, A Pilgrim's Progress. I'm Ben Johnson, the Pilgrim in Residence. That's what I call myself. This is a channel about healing from childhood sex abuse. I'm a survivor. It's about living with complex PTSD, developmental PTSD. I've got borderline personality disorder. Uh, it adds up to what I call being a war zone kid. That captures the human, to me, that captures the humanity of it. Because to use words from the mental health and psychology fields is one thing. It's great. It's very helpful to have, to kind of understand from that perspective what the words are. People that have these kind of range of problems, we can call them bulimic, like me. We can call them binge eaters, like I am. We can call them addicts, like I am. We can say they have BPD, like this guy. Those are all true things, and those can all be very helpful. But I'm a human being with a soul, just what I call the sum total of the whole thing added together. I have a soul, I'm a human being, that's what I am. And I'm a war zone kid. That's just my term for somebody that came out of a childhood, what those same psychologists would call a strong environment. You come out of a childhood which is more like a war zone than a nursery. This can be chronic abuse and neglect, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, often all three. And when they're coming from family members, this means that the child has to grow up in a world with a psyche and a heart where the people that you have to turn to and rely on are also the people that are causing you the greatest harm. And I just don't know any way at all that a human being, a fellow human creature like all of us, could grow up in that environment and not have a heart and a soul and a psyche that was made to live in that world. How could it be otherwise? But as an adult, you got to live in the rest of the world, not that war zone. That's why I call it a war zone kid. And so this channel really, to me, is about living life as an adult who was a war zone kid with a head and a heart and a psyche and a soul that grew up adapted to survive in that war zone very well, but very poorly adapted to live outside of that war zone. But we have to live anyway. How do we do that? How do we live? That's what this channel is about to me. How do we live? And that's a question that ain't in any way restricted to war zone kids. That is the question. I studied philosophy and classics in college. You can go all the way back to Plato, and that is what each of his 33 dialogues is about in some form or fashion. How do we live? How do we live right now in 2025 America? How do we live? It's a question all of us face. But as a war zone kid, my scope is restricted. I don't really need to concern myself about these broader questions of the cosmos and what are the best ways I can go about changing it so that I like it better. I got to start with what I am right now because that is a full plate. I have a full plate just living my life every day and remembering that I live in the now, where in another week I'll be past the minor abdominal procedure I had and I can get back out running. I'm going to run the Leaf Peeper half marathon in May. It's a goal I have. I've never had an athletic goal before, and I do now. I'm going to go on making these videos and getting my legs under me, my sea legs under me in terms of how I relate to the camera and how do I adapt my preacherly soul that always wants to, you know, that's my natural voice. This is like that of a preacher. That's just what comes out. How do I adapt that to this? That's me. I don't need to be some other guy. Sitcoms don't come out of me. Preacherly stuff comes out of me. That's what I got. That's what I use. You got to live the life you have. If it's a war zone kid, you got to live a war zone life. That's what I am. That's what this channel is about, a pilgrim's progress. How do we live? Where are we going? I'm living a life as best I can on a daily basis, headed for a place of peace and wholeness. I think of that as a pilgrimage because it reminds me what I'm doing every day. I'm headed toward a place of peace and wholeness with myself when I learn and become what I am, what this Gen X war zone kid who grew up in McLeod, Pottawatomie County, Oklahoma, late 70s and very early 80s, and on the south side of Oklahoma City for most of the rest of my childhood. How do I live? How do all of us live? That's what this channel is about. Thanks a lot for coming. Like and subscribe it. And if you're a Warzone kid or you know another Warzone kid that you think might like this, you send this video along to them because we have to do this together. The best thing, the best way any of us has to help our fellow human creatures is to just share our experience and what that's been like. That's what I'm doing here, trying to share my experience, what life is like for this Warzone kid right here. How do we live? Trying to answer that question. Even give you a little Greek lesson for the day. Pois boiton. How do we live? I'll tell you this. If you ask yourself that question right now, how do I live my life? How do we live? What is it for? You'll have a better day. Ask yourself that. Tough question. Well, thanks for coming over to the channel. That's what it's about. We got a long way to go on this trail, cowboy. We can't walk them miles alone and they ain't gonna walk themselves, so let's walk them together. Daylight's burning, pilgrim. Let's get after it.